All right, it is a Tuesday edition, section 1904. You are in. Thank you very much. John gave me some good news this morning that we have a handful of people that have subscribed over the last 24 hours. So that is greatly appreciated here as we are picking up the rhythm, getting into a daily routine, making sure that this podcast is available for you, hopefully by about lunchtime. We have some scheduling stuff going on here where I have to be out at Singing Hills in a little while to go interview Tomas Angel of San Diego Football Club, SDFC back home this weekend against Real Salt Lake. But do want to start by saying and shouting those that have subscribed over the last 24 hours or so. Do appreciate that as we continue to grow this little project of ours, Section 1904. And we have good news that the Discord channel should be available sometime over the next 24 hours. So if you have some thoughts and you want to put those thoughts out there and share it with the community, you will have a new way to do exactly that. So looking forward to it. Padres lose last night. We got some NBA to talk about because I think the NBA was quite tasty. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm a little stressed because I do have to get out to Singing Hills. And I'm a week away from this 2-week trip to Spain. And John, I woke up in the middle of the night completely overwhelmed. There's some sort of application, some sort of visa application that you have to apply for that neither my wife or I have done. She's on a week-long trip. So I'm feeling a little bit of weight on my shoulders here today.
I have questions about that, and we can get into that. But while we're still shouting people out, I want to shout out two people who have tweeted at Section 1904 in the last few hours, one of which, Kyle and Vista, who tagged you and said, "Your pants saga is why I came to Section 1904. Also, I think you need the Twill Lululemon pants." I didn't know Lululemon offered Twill pants, but apparently they do. Also, not sure if you read Kevin Acey's notebook this morning.
I tried. It wasn't up when I logged on this morning. I got up early and did a quick bit of prep here, but I didn't see that the notebook had been uploaded.
Our buddy Talking Friars noticed the same thing that I noticed and tweeted it at us. Took a screenshot of it and tweeted it at us. There was a thing towards the end of the notebook detailing whether or not Vasquez was sent to Detroit earlier than the rest of the team, because we were kind of talking about this at the end of the podcast yesterday. This is the paragraph that he screenshotted and sent. He boarded a flight 4 times in Houston on Sunday to try to get to Detroit for a good night's rest, as starting pitchers often do when the team is traveling late. Each time, he and the rest of the passengers on board were ushered back off the plane. Eventually, Vasquez returned to Dakin Park and then took the team charter to Detroit, which landed around 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So did not get a restful night of sleep. Maybe that's what led to him being terrible. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I want to go...
Because now this makes a bit of sense, just to add in on that, because sure. I did say at the end of the podcast yesterday that I would inquire about that.
Sure.
And true to my word, I did inquire with a couple of people with the team, and not on the trip, but I did say, did Vasquez fly to Detroit separately, or is that not a thing? And the only response I got back was, "Funny you should ask." And that was the end of the conversation. So I felt like there was a story and I wanted to follow up on the story, but then I got distracted by the basketball. Yeah. So I dropped it. I just sort of dropped it here. All I got was "funny you should ask." So I felt like, oh, okay. So there must have been something there. So they tried to put him on a flight and it didn't happen. What happened? He couldn't.
There was 4 different times where he boarded a plane and then had to unboard the plane. I don't know if this was due to weather, due to 4 consecutive mechanical malfunctions or what, but apparently it just pushed back his departure, pushed it back to the point that he just ended up going back to the ballpark and then boarding with the rest of the team.
Okay.
And he looked like ass, but we'll get to that. I have a question about this Spain trip. You are overwhelmed and unprepared. This is not the first time you've gone to Spain. Is this the first time that the visa application has been required? Was this not a thing before?
Yeah, I do think that they made a couple of tweaks here. And again, trying to gather information is a little tricky, especially when you're dealing with a language that is not your first language. But, you know, there is some sort of, and then it's even the time, like how much time are you there? And it is something that is relatively new that we didn't have to deal with in previous visits. So, and even the timing of this, it's kind of questionable. But, it's one of those things where you certainly don't want to find out when you land on Wednesday of next week, a week from tomorrow, and somebody goes, "Hey, where's your paperwork?" And, I'm going to be having a clock in my head because I land on Wednesday and we're going to the Champions League match Wednesday night.
Oh yeah.
And we land in Barcelona, and we're staying in the city about 30 minutes south called Sitges. And then we're going to be taking the train back into Barcelona and meeting friends. So there's going to be a little bit of I won't have time to waste, right? So
No.
I'm trying to figure this all out. And then we're trying to book a couple of different excursions. And, sometimes to book this sort of stuff, you have to give up a bit of information. So I don't think it's anything that's going to be prohibitive. It's just sort of like, oh man, like
Annoying.
yeah. And we also, we have to book a couple train trips, and we have to book a rental car. So, all of a sudden you're like, God, this trip's a week away. We've had it on the books for months, but of course, here we are, and so I think it'll be okay. I'm just like, man, it's like, you don't want to get to the point where you have so much stuff on your plate that you kind of forget about it. Yes, I'm a fan of the Lululemon pants as well. I've been wearing the ABCs for a while. One of our media colleagues, John, well, I don't know. I know you don't like being labeled as media, but
I don't mind it.
One of my legacy media colleagues who was listening to Section 1904 yesterday said, I feel the same way about flat brim hats that you feel about jeans. It's just time to assess the situation if you're a flat brim hat wearing kind of person.
I agree with
and you're
that.
getting up there into your 40s. So I don't know that I want to put anybody specifically out there on blast, but you know who you are if you're wearing the flat brim hat and you're over the age of 40. Just know at least there's one member of the local media who will judge you if he doesn't think it looks right. If it's not age appropriate for you, then at least know one member of the local media stands in judgment the same way I am judging whatever pantalones you're wearing.
I'm going to assume that's Woods just because it's funny to assume that that's Woods. Hey, yesterday I tweeted out or posted the video from you saying that the quote from the newspaper from the SDSU football coach who was 38 years old. And then you wondered whether or not he had even ever experienced smoking on planes in his life. And you just reminded me of my favorite smoking on planes story, which is my dad, the only time he was ever in Europe, his entire life, was he flew from JFK to Heathrow, and he lit up a joint in the bathroom of the airplane, got caught, and when he landed at Heathrow, they would not let him enter the country. He had to get back on a plane and fly back to JFK. So his whole story is he spent like about an hour and a half at Heathrow Airport. That's the only time he was ever in Europe in his entire life. Don't smoke on planes in general, but definitely don't do that shit.
A girl that I was dating, her brother went on a trip to Australia, and he forgot, I think it was a fishing trip, because he had a fishing vest in his luggage.
Sure.
And he had like the butt of a joint in there,
Okay.
Just like the roach end.
Sure.
Of the
Threw it in on the boat. Yeah.
In his fishing vest in a pocket. Totally plausible that he just could have, there's no reason why you would jeopardize a trip for this amount of marijuana, right?
Yes.
And he landed there, and they found it, and they sent him home. They turned him around, and they sent him all the way back from Australia back to San Diego, California. Yeah. 24 there, 24 back. Get out. Not welcome here.
I think my dad, it was like 10 there and 10 back, or 11 there and 11 back. It's brutal.
Not,
I would
not
never
not bringing any of that to Spain. But
and to your point, you wouldn't want to land in Spain and then be like, "Hey, you didn't do the paperwork. You got to get back on a plane and fly back." Right? Like that's nightmare scenario.
I know. You and I are talking a little bit. One of the episodes that we want to do, or at least not one of the episodes, one of the topics that I think we want we want to find the right person to discuss this, because I already can see it. Certainly, as somebody who follows a ton of soccer accounts, I can already see some of the hand wringing about what the World Cup is going to be like in 2026. From people that are going to be visiting the United States, because, we're starting to see, it feels like there's been an increase in stories from people in countries that we are, not historical rivals here, Canada, New Zealanders and others who are finding all sorts of problems when they land in the United States. And there's being detained and being questioned and all sorts of stuff, right? Like, I'm sure you've seen some of these stories. You spend a fair bit amount of time online and the like. The teams that have even qualified for the World Cup up until this point, obviously the host countries have, the United States, Mexico, and Canada. They don't have to qualify because they are host countries. Yeah. If you don't know the format of the World Cup in 2026, these are the three host countries. It's going to be all across North America. Most of the matches are going to be in the United States. The first match is going to be in Mexico. So, there's been a bit of an increase in the rhetoric between the three about how to get along. here in North America. I think everybody is well aware of that. Also already qualified for the World Cup in 2026 is Argentina, New Zealand, Japan, and Iran. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how many Iranian supporters are going to find their way to the United States for the World Cup in 2026, John. But I'm going to take the under on that just based on how it's going. I do think this is a bigger subject than what we had planned for.
Yeah.
Let me see. I do have this somewhere.
Yeah, we want to get
here it is. 6 million people expected to visit for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And according to a new report, the U.S. travel system is not ready. It is not ready. We are going to be overwhelmed at our airports. Even if we didn't have any restrictions whatsoever, it is estimated that we will be completely overwhelmed at the airports with 6 million people coming into the United States from Canada, from Mexico, from Europe, from Asia, from Africa. It's I mean, we could almost just put the headlines down today, can't we? Because it's sort of, you get the sense there's going to be a lot of bad stories.
I have a question, and it's one that I've been trying to figure out for a couple days now, and I should just ask you because there's a very good chance you know this. So the World Cup is happening in the United States of America in 2026, as of right now. I saw a story the other day that said the FIFA Club World Cup, which I think is also happening in the U.S., but this year was having a really, really hard time selling tickets, and everyone was going, for the same reason we're just talking about, everyone was going, gee, I wonder why. What is the Club World Cup, and how is that, is that going to bring a bunch of people too? Is that another tourism attraction type of thing, just on a different level? What is this thing?
It is it is. It's a nuisance.
It needs a different name. It needs a different name is what it needs.
It's a nuisance for a lot of clubs. There's a lot of fans who don't really want their clubs to participate in this. It is the first time that it has been expanded to this capacity. It is a little bit of a dry run for the World Cup coming up next summer. Is it an opportunity to showcase Lionel Messi and Inter Miami? I think so. The FIFA World Cup happens every couple of years, and for the most part, it's an event. If your team qualifies for it, is it a tournament worth winning? Yeah, I guess. Is it something that you prioritize when the summer starts or when the season starts? No, not like winning a League Cup or winning a Champions League Cup or winning a domestic cup or things along those lines. But they are expanding it here. I've not paid a ton of attention to it because A, it's not coming to San Diego. B, the clubs that I support are not involved. So, I'm glad that FC Barcelona is not involved with this. If I'm being honest, I'm glad that they are not, because it does feel like it's a lot more high level, intense in theory type soccer being added to the calendar that's already crowded to begin with. So I'm okay not being involved with this, but it is an incredible payday. I mean, the clubs that are participating in the FIFA World Cup are going to make tens of millions of dollars for doing so. So, it is an insane amount of money. Ticket sales, again, and I don't have this off the top of my head, but I know that the ticket sales have been really criticized because they've been outrageous. I don't think they're going very well. So already you're starting to see some ticket packages. They couldn't get a television deal here until very, very late into the game, which put the whole tournament into question. But the World Cup is your national teams, right? The U.S., Mexico, Canada. The Club World Cup are the clubs that will participate. Chelsea Football Club will participate in this. Inter Miami will participate in this.
City.
Real Madrid will participate in this. Manchester City will participate in this.
PSG,
as a matter of fact, it is being called into question. Like it is right now. People are wondering if Kevin De Bruyne will stay with Manchester City, even though his contract expires, I think, on June 1st. Wondering whether he will stay with Manchester City just through the summer, or whether he'll go play for Miami, or who knows what Kevin De Bruyne is going to do at this point. But, maybe he'll stay with the Manchester City just through the Club World Cup, and then he'll, go wherever he's going to end up, Saudi Arabia or MLS or sticking around in Europe. Who knows? But, it's a lot of things. It's sort of a Rorschach test of soccer, and that many people look at it and think it's a ridiculous concept. I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of European-based podcasts, and I hear a lot of people say they won't pay 1 minute of attention to the FIFA Club World Cup this summer. Now, I'll believe that when I don't hear it, but I have a lot of people who are suggesting that this thing is a complete waste of time, and it is, just another FIFA money grab, and it's bad for the sport, and it's, square peg, round hole, whatever. Will there be fans in the stands? I suspect that there probably will. Will it be on the level tourism-wise what the World Cup will be in 2026? No, it will not. And, again, I've not even planned out how like I am going to pay. I haven't even spent a single second trying to figure out where this tournament is and if it would be convenient for me to go and catch a FIFA Club World Cup match. I haven't even, and I'm the soccer guy here, and I haven't spent a second of my life. You could tell me right now, here's $1 billion on the table. Where is it? And I would just be guessing. I have no idea at all. I can tell you where the World Cup is going to be in 2026. I have that list of cities right in front of me because I'm trying to plan that out. But this thing that's happening here in the next couple of months, I could give a rat's ass about it.
I do find it a little bit interesting because I just looked up because we were talking about World Cup host cities. I find it a little bit interesting that Denver got left off, but that's besides the point. We don't need to get sucked down that hole. I do think we should probably clean up a couple of things that we predicted in yesterday's podcast, which was that Luis Ariz has a concussion and is on the injured list, and SDFC signed or transferred for, bought a new player from San Jose that you predicted was probably coming, right?
Yeah, Oscar Verhoeven. He's an 18-year-old from San Jose Earthquakes.
So we probably won't see him for a while.
I don't know. I might see him today. I mean, he might be here. I don't know that he will or won't be here. So, he might be. I can report on that tomorrow, even though this is a closed practice. So it's not open to the media. This is one of the benefits of being on the team side of it.
They are playing Real this on Saturday. Real has like an 18-year-old player, right? That guy was like their
We've
striker.
got an 18-year-old player. Luca Bambino's an 18-year-old left back. So this is the second 18-year-old left back that SDFC has on its roster. Now you got me looking at the Club World Cup here just to see if it's convenient at all.
They got to be playing games in LA, right?
I would think so. There's a story at The Athletic about the Kroenke Sports Group and SoFi Stadium and Arsenal, because they own all of that, right? Kroenke Sports Group owns SoFi Stadium. It owns the Colorado Rapids. It owns Arsenal Football Club.
Yep.
Let me just see. Where are these tournaments?
I don't think Arsenal's in it. Are they? I didn't see them.
No. I'm looking for the Club World Cup this summer. Where is this? Is this convenient at all? Like would I? Would this be convenient for me?
Are you on the website? I'm on the website. I'm looking up venues now. Let's see.
Group stage.
They do not. All right. So there's LA, Seattle, Cincinnati,
Miami, MetLife Stadium,
Cincinnati and Nashville,
Seattle.
Charlotte, Atlanta, Philly, New York, DC. I mean, you just go to LA. I'm assuming it's.
I go to Seattle. Seattle in the summer is really nice.
That's what I've heard. No, I haven't been.
Oh man, beautiful.
Oh, Rose Bowl. They're playing at the Rose Bowl.
I'll pass on that one.
You can see PSG. You can see Atletico.
Yeah, Cincinnati. I don't know. Again, maybe I'll get into it the closer that the actual event comes. But I've been influenced, John, by a lot of podcasters who told me that this is a complete waste of time.
That's
so I'm of the mindset that I've been influenced by others. The Ariz stuff. Back to Padres. I don't have a ton on Padres today. They lost a game. They got in at 4:00 in the morning. Not great for Randy Vasquez. Do you want to give him a bit of a mulligan because of the travel stuff? I don't know that that's the way the organization is going to look at it.
Probably not.
We discussed yesterday that the next couple of days, the days in Detroit between Vasquez and Kyle Hart, we're picking up that Yu Darvish is throwing the ball, that he's throwing bullpen sessions. So, it doesn't feel like, barring something that would be considered a setback, that it's that far off on the horizon. So, you're probably starting to evaluate this, and certainly that's not a start that's going to help Randy Vasquez. It's not going to help him stay in this rotation. But, of course, we'll see Pivetta today, and then we'll see Kyle Hart tomorrow against the Detroit Tigers. But I didn't – listen, you saw that lineup yesterday. They win that game, you're over the moon. But I don't know that there was any expectation that it was going to happen. And the game was just – it was a drag. I fell asleep during it. I never fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon, but this game actually put me to sleep. I fell asleep for like an hour. I woke up. I didn't even know what was happening. The Padres are down 6-2.
It was rough. They kind of looked lifeless. They were playing in front of a very, very empty ballpark in Detroit. And, Vasquez is just he's not a thrilling pitcher to watch, right? Like, he doesn't have great stuff. He's not very, he doesn't move a lot. He doesn't show a lot of emotion on the mound. So, it's probably their most boring starter in a very boring venue. And yes, it was a bit of a schedule loss. I think I called it to a friend of mine before the game as being a schedule loss. The only, interesting thing for me coming out of it is like they have a halfway decent mop-up guy which it's, that's always useful. And I'm curious if you think Gavin Sheets is going to break his single season record for home runs. He's got 3. His career high is 15.
Interesting. My only note on this game is Gavin Sheets an everyday player?
He might be.
I know the 8 at-bats versus left-handed pitching don't tell us much. He's only had 8. And, I'm not going to even tell you what the numbers are because it doesn't matter. 8 at-bats. We know what they are historically, and they're not great. But is he playing like an everyday player? I guess because of circumstance, the answer is probably yes. But I don't mind seeing a little bit more of Gavin Sheets.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting storylines this year is like what actually can Gavin Sheets turn into? Can he be a 20 home run hitter? Can he be a decent fielding first baseman? Like there's a real Jake Cronenworth stealing Eric Hosmer's first base job in 2020. Like there's a little bit of an opportunity here for him to steal the first base job and arise to go back to being like DH or something like that if Sheets plays really well. So and also, create options for the Padres going forward that don't involve extending Luis Ariz here. So it's going to be an interesting, I guess, couple of days and going forward, just keeping an eye on Gavin Sheets. But yeah, I don't have much to say about that loss outside of like everyone just seemed tired and lifeless.
Yeah. And again, I think it translated through the television. Yeah. Because, the game put me to sleep. I mean, and I shit you not, like that's literally what happened. I cannot tell you the last time I just fell asleep in the middle of the afternoon like that. Now, maybe this is part of Spain prep too, John. Siesta culture is real. I love siesta culture. So maybe this is a little bit of good prep for me getting set to go to España there, where you take a siesta in the middle of the day, which is something I would love to be a part of. I love siesta culture. It is phenomenal. It just gives you an excuse to lie down in the middle of the day, get naked next to your wife. I mean, it's an incredible thing. It's such a smart concept. Even if you don't go to sleep, just get off your feet for a couple of hours, get into the dark, get under the covers. Like what a concept, man. These people just have it figured out, don't they?
It makes the nighttime more fun too, because then everyone's got some energy, everyone's ready to go. It's what you described there was a little afternoon delight. I don't know if that's siesta culture or vacation culture, but and I can see why you're so happy when you return from Spain. And
it takes the pressure off of being romantic later into the evening. If you have a couple 2 minutes, it just gives you that nice way to get through the afternoon and get you set for the evening and put you in a good mood. That's why those people are always happy.
That's why those people are happier than most Americans. The other part of this that I find interesting is that you fell asleep because the Padres put you to sleep, but happening at the same time.
Correct.
Was an NBA playoff game involving your favorite NBA team. You siested your way through like the first half of a Knicks playoff game. How did that feel waking up halfway through that one? You missed game 1 and half of game 2. Well,
on the Knicks group chat, it was pointed out, can't we ever just show up for a game at the start? Something along those lines. And somebody said, listen, this is all about the second half. We all understand it. The Knicks were down 8 going into the fourth quarter in game 1, went on a 21-0 run and ran away from the Pistons. They were down 8 again going into the fourth quarter, so it feels like it's a bit of a trend here in this series. But yeah, the first half of the basketball didn't do a ton for me. And then I woke up and it just was annoying. I know a lot of people say, wow, this was a great night of NBA playoff basketball. That second game, and maybe it's because I'm attached to a team that played in the early game. And so I view it through a totally different lens than a nonpartisan, somebody agnostic to rooting for or against the Knicks, for or against the Pistons. But yeah, that game frustrated me in the second half. I figured it was going to be sort of a second half experience. I did have both televisions on, but it just, I don't know. It just the game annoyed me. The second game, man, I couldn't get enough of that. Could not get enough of that. I felt like the first game was just a slog. It had similar traits to watching the Padres in Detroit, watching the Knicks and the Pistons. Two Detroit teams there, just sort of. I don't know where this team is going. I just don't. I think the ceiling's so low for them, and the fact that Jalen Brunson has to go out there and do everything certain nights, and other guys just don't do much. It's I appreciate him, but I also fear that it's just not, that it's unsustainable, John. That this style is it's like an unsustainable style against a younger team, a hungry team like the Pistons that haven't had a playoff win since 2008 or something. Haven't had a playoff game since 2019. So it's been a minute for the Pistons, but that game it was a slog. I don't know. Is it me? Like, are you, as a casual observer, do you feel the same way while you're watching this team play, or is it just me because I'm looking at it through the lens of the Knicks?
You're saying the Knicks are always a slog?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like such a grind with them.
Yeah,
it's like they're down 8, and they have to you have to rely on here they come again. They're down 10 and going into the fourth, and it's like, is this the script every fucking night with this team, or can they ever just play a game from start to finish?
I will say that a thing that has kind of dawned on me recently is that the Knicks are a tough team. Like, they're a bunch of tough guys, and they're tough. They're mentally tough, but they're not a physical team. They're not a bunch of big bruisers who like to get, the body slamming into each other, and we're going to win the war of wills. That's not really them. And the Pistons are kind of playing that way. They have some guys that are like, look, Tobias Harris, he's had like a 15-year NBA career. He's made a lot of money. I know a lot of people criticize him, but he's a big, strong dude. And when it comes to the playoffs, when he wants to, when he's going up against a guy who's smaller than him, he'll throw that big, muscular body into the other guy and get to where he wants to go. And the Knicks are just struggling a little bit in that department. They're struggling with the physicality. I think I texted you at some point and said the refs had swallowed their whistles. I didn't think that was a good thing for the Knicks. And, Towns basically disappeared in the fourth quarter.
You and Tom Thibodeau said the same exact thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, my buddy Fred Katz had a stat at the end of the game that, I think Kat didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter or something like that, and it ended up with 10 points. I don't know that the Knicks can win a lot of games where Karl Anthony Towns finishes with 10 points. And that's not to say the Pistons were great. The Pistons just mucked stuff up. They dragged this game into the mud, as my friend Vinny Goodwill would say. And they have a team and a coach that might be more suited for a game in the mud than the Knicks are right now. I still think that the Knicks are just way too talented to lose this series, but I'm intrigued by how close the first couple games have been, and I'm interested to see where it goes. And it's hard for me to not root for a guy like Cade Cunningham, who, he's young, he struggled with being on a bad team, with overcoming injuries, and through it all has just been a great, ambassador for the city and face for the team. And now you can really see him, his body has grown in a way that it can kind of take the pounding, and you can see all the skills that he's had this whole time. And I mean, Detroit had 2 guys that scored 20 points or more. And one of them was Cade, who had 33. The other was Dennis Schroeder, who was basically the backup point guard, who had 20. It's not a high-scoring team. Cade basically had to carry their offense for almost the entire game, and ended up beating, what are the Knicks? The 2 seed, the 3 seed, something like that. 3 seed. So, it's cool to see a young player like that work on offense. Asar and Amen Thompson are 2 of the most fun defensive players in the league right now to watch. It's fun to watch them do their thing, but Tim Hardaway Jr. getting 21 minutes of cardio is always entertaining to see. But yeah, it was not a great game. I loved the Nuggets Clippers game. Felt like as much as basketball can be it felt like a one-on-one. Jokic is going to give it his all. Kawhi is going to give it its all, and we're going to see who has the W at the end.
Definitely the better game. Definitely the better game. Yeah,
I don't know.
Just to follow up on
your
thing about Towns, because I did read somewhere, like, well, he only took 2 or 3 3-pointers in the game, and I'm like,
2.
I mean, I don't know.
0 for 2.
I mean, you're 7 feet tall. I understand that you can shoot the shot, but like you said, I mean, it's Tobias Harris. Can you maybe muscle that down low a little bit? I get it's not exactly the only thing that he's capable of doing with his size, but still, do I really, do I want the analysis to be that Karl Anthony Towns only took a couple of 3-point shots? I don't. It's just for me. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe when they go to Detroit. The other thing I was thinking real quick too is like I like some of these players. I do like Anunoby. And I do like Brunson. I do like Hart. The only player that the Knicks drafted on this entire team is like Mitchell Robinson. And there was a moment last night where I was like, man, all the losing that I've had to put up with this team, all of the losing that I've had to put up with this team for the last 20 plus years, and all the draft picks that they've had, and man, they never got a Cade Cunningham, did they? And I will say, I guess it doesn't really matter how you win, right? It doesn't matter how you build a roster if you win, I guess would be the right way to say that. But I think one of the first things we ever said here on Section 1904 was like, there is a little something extra about Jackson Merrill because he came through the system.
Oh, yeah.
And, like when you Brunson's a really, really popular player and he's a team captain and, he's the lifeblood of the entire organization. But, he did come from somewhere else and it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody in Miami was like, well, I don't know. LeBron, though, he was drafted by the Cavaliers, but they also had Wade there, and that seemingly mattered a lot that they had Dwayne Wade. It was, I don't know. I'm just sort of rambling about this. It's just something that popped into my mind while I was watching. I was like, all this losing, all these years, and like never landed a Cade Cunningham there in New York. Which even the Knicks teams that I grew up rooting for always had Patrick Ewing. They always have players like that were around that were through the Knicks. But I don't know. Probably not that important.
Have you been surprised by any of the celebrity sightings on the sideline? It's just a fun part of every MSG game. So have you seen anyone that's like, whoa, I haven't seen him in a Knicks game before or her in a Knicks game before?
I don't think so. I don't think so last night. I mean, I just keep waiting for Charles Oakley to make his way back. That's the only thing I really care about.
I just love that Starks is there every game.
Oh, I love it. And he's like the biggest cheerleader, him and Carmelo. Like he's the biggest cheerleader at all. I don't know. I guess maybe it's just the way the postseason goes. You win a game, you feel pretty good. You lose a game, you feel pretty rotten. But that second game, I don't know, man, I couldn't get enough of that. I mean, that was from I guess we'll start with Kawhi. I mean, how could you start with anybody else? But tell me that was in 2019 Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard on full display last night, because that's what it felt like to me while I was watching him.
Exactly. And, leading up to the playoffs, Kawhi's been playing some of his best basketball in years, probably since before the Toronto Raptors, because he looked relatively healthy and he looked like he was having fun. And in game one, I'm not going to say Kawhi was terrible in game one, but compared to what you usually get from Kawhi Leonard in a playoff game, he was pretty terrible. I think he had 7 or 8 turnovers by himself. And just, he lost the ball at the end of regulation when he could have had a game-winning shot. He made a lot of mistakes in game one. And after that, I was like, there's no way in hell that they're getting anything but an absolute demon, Kawhi Leonard, for game 2, if not the rest of the season or the rest of the series, because that, like, Kawhi doesn't get embarrassed, right? And that was like the first time where I was like, oh, we're going to see that, like, Kawhi got embarrassed. He's going to show up and be like, oh, I'm going to make you forget about that, with one of the most perfect games you'll ever see in your entire life, where he shoots like 76% from the field, over 50% from 3. He makes all of his free throws. He's got 5 assists, 2 steals, a block to go at 39 points. Like, he was amazing. And the great thing about that team, they're so well coached, and it's just a bunch of guys that want to win. Like, James Harden is still James Harden, but he's not the James Harden from Houston where he's like, I want to win my way. He just wants to win. Yeah. And Chris Dunn is just a defensive dynamite who will, sneak back cuts and take open threes, but he just wants to win. He doesn't care who's shooting the shot. And they all just pretty much got out of Kawhi's way and said,
Norm Powell,
oh man, his 3 at the end of the game was beautiful. But San Diego's own Norm Powell. But just watching
obligated to say that, obligated to point out that he's from San Diego, Lincoln High School, I want to say.
I think that's right. But yeah, and you know, my guy Derek Jones Jr., who was one of the most fun guys to watch on the Mavericks last year, is fun to watch on the Clippers. Nick Batum is always great in the playoffs. Bogdanovich got a little edge to him, which I'm learning about. That's fun. Even the Ben Simmons reclamation project, like there's nothing but like good, awesome, fun vibes coming out of the Clippers. Mm-hmm. And they're also well coached and they're rowing in the right direction. And like, do you know their biggest cheerleader on the bench is like Patty Mills?
DeAndre Jordan's hanging around in this game last night too. Like it's funny when you look at some of these benches and you see guys like Patty Mills, Ben Simmons, DeAndre Jordan. You're like, I wasn't even sure these guys were still in the league.
Right. But yeah, the takeaway here was that, you know, I thought Jokic was trying to do everything because he kind of had to, but the game ended. The second the whistle blew at the end of the game, both Kawhi and Jokic immediately went down and grabbed at their knees, like huffing for air, because they were toast. They were toast. They're so lucky this game didn't go to overtime. Those guys had nothing left to give. They left it all out there in Denver at elevation, and it was just a great game. It was a great game, and I kind of hope that both of these series end up going, 5, 6, 7 games, because it's just a great matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to try to draw, to try to explain myself in a little bit of a better way, because again, I'm also looking at it through the lens of being a fan, right? And I will admit, I'm not always a great fan. I'm always like, this team sucks. It's going to lose anyway. It takes a lot for me to feel pretty optimistic. Last year, postseason Padres, I felt really optimistic about that. I might eat these words in about a week, but I feel pretty optimistic about Barcelona and Champions League, at least for this round in the semifinal. Maybe it's because I'm going. But,
how did you feel about the Knicks last year? Were you optimistic about them
better.
Last year in the playoffs?
Yeah, I probably felt a little bit better, but they didn't have Julius Randle because, Randle had gotten hurt towards the tail end of the year.
Yeah, it's true.
I think the thing is, right, and I don't know, like you follow a lot of NBA people more so than I do, but I feel like efficiency ratings, once upon a time were a pretty big deal. Are they still a big deal when it comes to NBA analytics?
It's one of those things. It's actually similar to the conversation we were having with Dylan from Letters to AJ. And him and I have actually had like kind of online conversations about this, about how WAR and PER, which is the player efficiency rating, they're kind of a regular season stat.
Okay.
And when you get to the playoffs, it's not really about efficiency anymore. It's just kind of about like, what can you figure out? Getting it done.
But here's the thing that I would contrast between watching the second game versus the first game. Like Brunson's a great example. I mean, Brunson saves, like he's single-handedly, he's the only player on the team that's doing anything. And, he's got to take all of the shots, right? Like down the stretch, he's got to kind of do everything because Bridges misses open shots. He's unreliable. You have to figure out, is it going to be a night where Hart's going to be good or who's going to,
Right.
And then you watch a performance like Kawhi's last night. And I understand, like not everybody's Kawhi Leonard. So I'm not trying to say that, that Josh Hart should be Kawhi Leonard. But when you see him go for 39 on 15 of 19, you're like, oh man, like this is just good basketball. Like this is just good basketball. And you can watch that both ways. Murray, I thought, played a pretty efficient game. Again, I don't have all these things right in front of me, but just watching it, it's hard. Like it's a hard thing. It's a hard sport. John's point about everybody listening to their knees barking at the end of it.
Yeah.
And like it's going to be grueling for anybody to have to play this kind of series in the first round and then think you're going to win a second round and then win a conference championship and then win a title. But man, like it just was like, it just was like I hate the term rock fight because it's overused. I just don't know what other word to use to watch the first game versus watching the second game. Watching that second game, you're just like, oh, I'm going to watch this game because I feel like people are going to make shots. Whereas in the first game, it's like, somebody's going to have to go drive into the lane and get fouled 50 times, in order to make anything happen in this one. Just different styles, which I guess is the point of the postseason. But I don't know. It was a more enjoyable watch for me, I suppose, rooting interest aside, watching the second game than the first game.
Yeah, and I'm rooting for the Clippers this postseason, so it was gratifying to end that one with a win and go back to the Intuit Dome, tied at 1. We'll see what that place is like for a home playoff game for the first time. It'll probably be crazy, but yeah, playoffs are also one of those weird places that you don't see often in the NBA, where it's like, Jokic got so tired at the end of the game that he was missing free throws.
Yeah,
and that mattered.
And diving, to flopping too.
And flopping, but like he missed 4 free throws at the end of the game and they lost the game by 3 points. Like these things matter when it's the rock fight and you're so evenly matched, right? And you can't you have to win on the margins because everywhere else it's just so even. And so that those make for the best games. They also make for environments where Russell Westbrook at times looks like he's winning you the games, and then like the next play looks like he's losing you the game because it's just so close that one player can actually swing things to the left or to the right. And yeah, it was wonderful. I thought the refs did a pretty good job in both games of not getting in the way and just letting the players play. That's the best kind of playoff basketball. And the Denver Clippers series, the Nuggets Clippers series, is the one that I am watching the closest, maybe tied with Warriors Rockets, because it's just fun. It's just good basketball.
It's very good basketball, and it's an interesting thing too. And again, I don't want to draw a permanent conclusion based on my timeline.
Yeah,
but I feel like a lot of people in San Diego are rooting for the Clippers. I don't know if that's a Kawhi Leonard thing, or if that's a Kawhi Leonard and a Norman Powell thing, or if that's a San Diego Clipper thing,
maybe it's
or if that's a more modern section, or if that's a more modern San Diego Clipper thing because of the Oceanside G League team, or if that's because Ballmer. I felt like early on, like it was, and I suspect it's probably still the case, that if you were an NBA fan in San Diego County, you were probably a Laker fan. Now, again, that's just anecdotal. But I feel like more and more now, there's a lot more interest in the Clippers. And I can't help but think that maybe that's a little bit of return on investment from the Clippers organization, right? Like we sort of joked on opening day that the Clippers were like, hey, good luck, Padres. Have a great season. Now, they also did that to the Dodgers and the Angels. So I guess they just are trying to appeal to Southern California teams.
At least they're trying.
Yeah, but, we understand they've got a player who a lot of people are proud of at San Diego State. And, as John pointed out, because we're obligated to do it, Norm Powell's another guy. And, now some of their marketing seems to be directed at the county, doesn't it? Even their logos seem to be directed a little bit at appealing to San Diego, and the fact that they have their reserve team that plays in San Diego County as well. I just wonder if there's some sort of shift in the fandom of San Diegans when it comes to their NBA teams of Southern California.
I think it's a combination of a bunch of things, as is usually the case when we're searching for answers. One of which is that the Clippers were always the Lakers' little brother, right? Like when I lived in LA, I would talk to people and they would say, hey, growing up, the Clippers used to play in the afternoon and then they would clear out the arena and then the Lakers would play at night. And it was always this thing of like the Clippers were basically the afternoon marquee, right? It was like for the people who didn't have money and didn't want to see good basketball, you'd go see the Clippers. And they were like, while you were walking out of the Clippers games, there would be Lakers fans showing up mocking you. And so they were always the little brother. And then even when they weren't really as much, that wasn't happening as much, they moved to Staples Center and they each got their own nights and everything. The Clippers were still terrible for a really long time. So I think the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin thing was starting to help them. The Donald Sterling thing started to drag them down. But having Ballmer, who like I struggle all the time with, like, I think Ballmer is the owner that all fans want, but I also don't know that he's actually a good owner. It's a weird thing I struggle with. It's on a day when we have more time for it, I can get into it. But I think it matters a lot that Riverside, born and raised, San Diego State alumni, Kawhi Leonard, who, if he was doing it for his brand, would be going to Dodgers games, instead comes down and goes to San Diego Padres games, roots for the Padres, wears Padres hats. Like I saw someone the other day say, like, it's one of the most confusing things in the world that this kid born and raised in LA unabashedly roots for the San Diego Padres. And maybe that's his time at SDSU. Maybe he just came to San Diego, fell in love with it. And, I think there's a lot of evidence that he still summers here and stuff. So I don't know, but I think that helps a lot, because anyone who rooted for him then is like, well, he's still rooting for the Padres. I can hang with him. And yeah, now it's the San Diego Clippers, and the Clippers have their own arena and they're not the little brother, and their owners are richer than the Lakers owners. It's just, if you were looking for a reason to jump ship, there are some reasons now that to make you feel comfortable with it, I think is why it's happening.
Right. And it's different though, right? Because, if you're a San Diego State fan, just the same way any of us that went to any basketball school, we follow our players into the NBA. Like, I'm never going to bail on the team that I grew up rooting for. I'm never going to bail on the Knicks to go root for, some team just because a St. John's player went and played there. But the circumstances are different here, right? They're totally different in San Diego because there is no NBA team.
Correct.
And you would think, just based on our history of teams that have vacated the market, that the Clippers would very much be in the same sort of pariah territory as the Chargers, because they used to be here and then they left, and they had a creepy owner who did it for no real reason whatsoever. I know things weren't great at the sports arena, but So, they were of that same status, and it feels like now maybe it's because that owner is no longer. I wonder if one of the morals of the story is if that Dean Spanos were to sell the Chargers, people would then feel like it's okay to root again for the Chargers. Maybe there's a little something to that because it's no longer Donald Sterling, who was the owner who pulled the Clippers out of here. But that's probably not the point. The point I was trying to make was, I think people watched Kawhi Leonard when he was with San Antonio, but I don't know that anybody would sit around and talk about how they were fans of the San Antonio Spurs or the Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard played there. But it does feel like there's something a little different happening here with Ballmer and the Clippers, that they very much do want to appeal to San Diego. And some of that is based on him. All excellent points from you, John, about him being an unabashed Padre fan, being at Petco Park all the time, being there now with Powell. So, those are interesting. I was driving around over the weekend and I sent you a text about this because I was driving to go call the SDFC Charlotte game. And I wanted to listen to the game on the radio, and I could not find the Clippers anywhere on local radio. And you said that you thought they had a deal with 570, and 570 was playing the Dodgers. So the Dodgers have priority. That's their station, right?
They do.
So, I sort of bailed on it, and I thought, well, wait a second now. Isn't ESPN radio the official home, the radio home of the NBA postseason? And it occurred to me, none of the local sports stations have an ESPN affiliation. ESPN has the NBA. ESPN has the college football playoff. ESPN has baseball's postseason and the World Series. And there's no local station that is affiliated with ESPN radio. That's interesting to me.
I'm going to give you a very 2025 answer because I didn't realize when you sent me that text, you were literally driving around trying to find the station. I would have told you I've used this before when I've had to drive during a game that is broadcasted on ESPN radio. If you open up the ESPN app, just the ESPN app, and you go to that game, there's a little button that's like, listen to the game if it's on ESPN radio, and then you just stream it into your car. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those things where it's like, oh, it's just another thing that radio is like, well, we're not going to pay for that. And then everyone figures out how to do it without radio. And then radio's like, wait, what do you mean we have less listeners? It's just another way to get people a little bit detached from radio, unfortunately. But yeah, it's weird how little basketball also, I feel like NBA basketball doesn't do great on the radio, but that could just be me, very looking through a pinhole at certain markets that I know about and being like, well, this market's radio station doesn't do very well.
Well, John, the alternative was literally people just yammering on about the NFL draft. Literally, that was what was on network programming instead of putting on an NBA playoff basketball game. Now, somebody will tell me that probably is the correct programming choice for sports radio in 2025 with the NFL draft. I think this weekend. I think it's Thursday. I'm not positive.
It's in 2 days.
So, maybe somebody, some executive, some program director would tell you that is the right decision, but I don't personally. That is not what I choose. I didn't listen. I wasn't like, well, I can't find these basketball games, so I guess I'll listen to this draft analysis. I listened to something else. I just was like, oh, I was watching it before I left the house, and I would like to listen to this while I'm driving to the studio, and to not have it on or have it available anywhere in, at least not that I was aware of in Southern California, felt like a little bit of a miss, even based on everything you said. I know you can go to these apps, you can open it, you can click listen. I can also click watch it, and I can watch it too. I can sit there and I can watch it. I have a stand in my car where I can, and I have watched sporting events while I'm driving around. Not the safest thing in the world, but it is hands-free. But it does, I don't know.
It's
we're not going to have the World Series not going to be on anywhere in San Diego County in this big baseball town. If the Padres aren't in it, we're not going to have the World Series on anywhere. We don't have the college football playoffs on. What's that all about?
College football championship. This is actually one of the arguments that I occasionally have for satellite radio is satellite radio will give you the play-by-play of pretty much any sports game you want.
Even if they just literally put the television Like they literally will just attach the television
That's
to
fine.
the radio output.
That's fine.
And just play the television call. I've heard soccer matches on satellite radio when I've been driving around the country where you can tell they just literally connect the television with a cable to their output on satellite radio. And you drive around and just get like, oh, you hear the announcers like, oh, you can see in this replay. You're like, no, I can't see any of that shit. But I don't. I just think it's again, it's probably just a snapshot in time with the Clippers, but it does feel like there's some sort of effort being made on their behalf, and maybe some of it too is like, hey, you people in San Diego, you all hate the Dodgers. Really, you hate the Dodgers. You know who's often associated with the Dodgers? The Lakers, right? Like if you're in LA, you're a Dodger fan and a Laker fan. But how about us? We're a little bit counterculture, right? Like, we're sort of, we're on the outside. We're not part of that cool clique too. Yeah. So maybe there's a little bit of that. Maybe there's a little bit of that personality that's appealing to some people here in town. I don't know. And I might be wrong about all of this. Maybe it just has to do with Kawhi Leonard. But when you start putting, homage to San Diego, your San Diego roots literally into your logo, it tells me that you're appealing to a market in a way that hadn't been done before from an LA team.
If this thing for me sticks and I'm just like, hey, I'm a Clippers fan now because I can't do the Mavericks thing anymore, and that's entirely possible. Like, I will go to wherever, probably just an online store, is selling San Diego Clippers merch, and I will wear it. And I will be like, yeah, I'm a fan of the LA Clippers, and I'm a fan of the San Diego Clippers, and I love the fact that I can wear merch that has my hometown on it, but also the team I root for, and that's not like a thing I had to invent myself. That's cool. So I think all parts of this contribute to, and I made this argument on the website a couple weeks ago. Like, if you're San Diego looking for a team to follow through the NBA playoffs, like there's a number of reasons why following the Clippers makes sense.
Well, you don't want to be on the Knicks group chat because we're all unhappy with that group. All right, last thing before I got to bounce out of here.
Yep.
Neither John nor I are wrestling people.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been a wrestling person in 40 years. I did go to a WWF event way back when, a million years ago at Madison Square Garden.
It's been about 25 years for me.
Saw Sergeant Slaughter wrestle the Iron Sheik.
Wow.
I don't understand any of this stuff that I'm seeing that comes across my timeline, especially some of the stuff that's happening with Pat McAfee. I don't understand any of this. I don't know who Paul Heyman is. Do you? Do you know who any of these people are?
I do.
And this scene that he had where Pat McAfee's doing his show from Las Vegas, which is, I guess, where WrestleMania, is that what it's called?
Yeah. So WrestleMania used to be a one-day event. Now it's a weekend, and it took over Las Vegas for like 4 days because they do I think they do a Friday night show, a Saturday show, a Sunday show, and then they normally have Monday Night Raw, and they just do it all from the same place and take over a building and a city for like 4 days.
And McAfee's doing his ESPN show from one of these convention centers somewhere out there in Vegas. And this guy, Paul Heyman, gets on there and is as vulgar as it gets. He starts insulting some of the ESPN personalities like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp. He starts like whipping, not literally whipping a schlong out, but pantomiming a schlong and talking about how Pat McAfee can slap his schlong on the table. And you're like, I don't understand any of this at all. He's insulting people in not subtle racist kind of vernacular.
Yep.
Telling people who have brown skin that they're going to be deported.
Yep.
Cussing up a storm, making what you would think would be a messy situation for McAfee. Although I get the sense none of this stuff bothers Pat McAfee at all.
Correct.
And I don't, then I saw another clip of another guy who was on satellite radio, who was screaming about John Cena. And he's like, fuck John Cena. And I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what am I missing here that has people this emotional about wrestling? That this is carrying on for 3 days across multiple platforms, including like ESPN's brand and satellite radio. And I was searching around at The Athletic. The Athletic, I guess, offers no coverage of wrestling at all. Not that I was able to find. I guess it's beneath The Athletic in the New York Times. I'm not sure. Maybe I just couldn't locate it, John. But I will admit, some of these clips, I don't understand any of it at all. I don't know anything that happened. I vaguely know who John Cena is, but I'm sort of drawn into the spectacle of it all.
The funny thing about this is that you and I have been having conversations for a while about guys in sports media branching out, guys like Stephen A. Smith having, Steve Bannon on his podcast to talk politics. Yeah, Steve Bannon. And the funny thing is, like, the wrestling guys have always played with, hey, I'm going to be edgy and I'm going to be, like casually racist, because it fires people up, because they don't really care what I say. They just care how I say it. And I'm going to fire people up with this. And if I get in any sort of trouble, I'll just be like, no, it was a character. It was a character. Right. And I think that's a little bit of what McAfee is like leaning into, of like, I'm going to say things loudly. I'm going to piss people off. And if I cross any sort of lines, I'll just be like, hey, man, that was for TV. That's a character, right? And I learned from Howard Stern, who did it in a very different way. We need to have someone on to answer a lot of questions. I can answer a lot of questions about Paul Heyman. I happen to love Paul Heyman. I don't know him as a person, but he's one of the most entertaining people to ever pick up a microphone ever. I can tell you stories about, me falling in love with ECW, which was Paul Heyman's wrestling organization, when I was like 10 years old, watching it on public access TV outside of Philadelphia. So we could have a good conversation with someone. I reached out to Bill Hanstock this morning. I was hoping he could come on, but he's busy this week. So we'll either get him when he's not busy, or we can get someone else to come on and explain it to us. I do have a handful of friends who not only pay attention to this stuff, but will literally travel and go to this like 3-4 day WrestleMania event every single year. So they can certainly answer a lot of questions that I cannot.
I also know that I come across as a bit dismissive when I talk about wrestling, and that's fine. I don't really care. I mean, it's not my thing. I'm not into it at all. Obviously, a lot of people are, but even on a local level, I think you might have seen this, and maybe the timing was coincidental, maybe it was not. Petco Park is going to host something called the WWE Survivor Series in November of 2025. This is the first. Let me see. What stood out to me? The last time a WWE premium live event was held in San Diego was in 2008, when the promotion's one-night stand took place at the San Diego Sports Arena.
Yeah.
The announcement comes days after WWE's two-night WrestleMania 41 at the Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium drew 125,000 fans. Padres CEO Eric Krupner quoted, saying, "We are beyond excited to host WWE's Survivor Series at Petco Park in partnership with the San Diego Tourism Authority. For over 2 decades, Petco Park has hosted the most iconic sports and entertainment moments in San Diego history and established a well-earned reputation as a world-class venue. We look forward to welcoming WWE's incredible talent and passionate fan base to America's #1 ballpark for what promises to be another unforgettable night in the heart of downtown San Diego. We're bringing the WWE Survivor Series to San Diego. Couldn't be more excited to welcome this iconic event to the 619. That's Todd Gloria who said that. Sorry about that.
Should we bring on Eric Grupner to explain Survivor Series to us?
And then say, hey, Eric, what's up with the television deal here? Every national outlet wants to put you on as many times as possible. Can we get a better TV deal around here? Or is that baseball? Is that baseball that's handcuffing you? I mean, listen, I'm not going to go to this. And, I'm sure it's going to be packed, though. I'm sure it'll be packed. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people here that you and I know and that you and I like, probably cannot wait for November of 2025 when this event comes to San Diego.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Do you think the national? Do you think
the national? In despair over this.
It's a weird. Like, even when I was into wrestling, and I was into wrestling in like the 90s, I would get like uncomfortable when like something would get so big that like ESPN would be like, well, now we need to cover it, which really only happened when like Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman got involved with it. Like, isn't that during the finals of the NBA finals? They were like wrestling in it doesn't matter. It's a weird thing, because like one of them feels like live entertainment. It's like a live TV show. And then the other one is competition and athletic sports. And it's weird when they mix, but I definitely want someone who can speak on it better to come on this podcast and talk to us about it. The TV deal thing, very, very quickly, and then you can wrap up. You pointed out that the Padres are like third amongst the most like nationally televised games. Do you think part of that is because they know that locally there's not a good TV deal, and they're like, well, if we put them on national, all of San Diego will tune in because this is like their opportunity to watch the Padres?
That's an interesting point. I mean, I think they're not gonna put the Pirates on there. They're just not gonna. They're not going to put some dog shit team on there. I mean, I think having Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill helps you. Manny Machado and a 93-win team helps you. I don't think that they would put some shitty product out there. But I mean, it's an interesting theory. Maybe it's one of those where it doesn't hurt. But again, like the money's the same. You know, you don't get paid per appearance.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's not great for the Padres.
Yeah, and it's fine that you get to, you know, if anything, it seems like it's annoying to Padre fans to be on some of these other channels because, you know, now like, I'm already paying for this thing and now I got to pay for another thing. And plus these announcers are terrible and they don't know anything about the Padres. And I'm sick and tired of listening to Eduardo Perez. You know, like that seems to be the chorus every time the Padres are on a nationally televised game. Anyway, like these guys all suck and they don't know anything about the team. And, you know, where's Don and Mud? You know, it seems like that's every nationally televised
Mud was
game.
Texting into the ESPN game on Sunday. I don't know if you heard that part.
I did hear that as well. But, you know, I still think like my takeaway is like, hey, there's all this interest nationally in the Padres, you know, like you can't, you know, that stadium could be 50,000 and they probably would fill it at this point.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just feels odd that they have the worst television deal in Major League Baseball to me. And I think I read something about Eric Grubner saying you got to ask baseball, you know, and I know that this is a little bit of a waiting game that you're going to have to wait. You know, there's something with the CBA after 2026, and that's going to be a big fight. And then some of these television deals, I think, are up after 2027 or 2028. So it might be a rough couple of years on that front when it comes to the amount of television dollars, because I think they're trying to put it all under one umbrella. But you can't convince me that there's not a better short-term solution out there for the Padres than having one of the worst, if not the worst television deal in Major League Baseball. And I'm citing Kevin Acee. That's not my opinion. Kevin Acee said that they might have the worst television deal. You can't tell me that there's not a better short-term solution than spinning this thing off a la carte on MLB.com. Yeah, I don't believe that.
I also
based on some of the other stuff that's happening around the league.
They could also just put it on a local channel, right? Like if you're not going to make the money either way, at least get the exposure. You know, make a deal with Channel 10. Hey, we're going to put on Padre games on, you know, over the weekend or something. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know,
something.
Ben Higgins would love that,
right?
He would love that. So, yeah, out of the wrestling stuff, I swear, I just sat here and I'm like, what is this? What is happening? You know, how are they getting away with this on ESPN? You know?
It's McAfee leaning into wrestling. The second I saw it happening, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. I mean, and there he's like going after Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp, this Paul Heyman guy, because Sharp's getting sued by some woman. And you can't even keep up with this.
I know.
You can't even keep up with this stuff. Anyway, you can keep up with this. Thank you again to those that subscribed. We still are in the trial window, so we do appreciate everybody who is taking the time to subscribe and send us messages. And I continue to get trolled by people who are sending me pictures of themselves in jeans. So, you know, now you can send me pictures of people wearing flat brim hats as well. It's not my take. It's not my take, just for the record. But it was somebody who chimed in who was listening. So I just want to shout that person out as well. The basketball will be good tonight again. Bucks and Pacers. And it sounds like Dame Lillard's going to play. Grizzlies and Thunder. And then the T-Wolves and the Lakers a little later on tonight. Juicy. That's a juicy triple header of NBA basketball.
I hate the fact that Bucks and Pacers on NBA TV and Thunder get to blow out the Grizzlies on TNT because it should easily be flipped. But whatever. Besides the point.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news is you get them all. Yeah, I get all those games.
Yeah, me too.
Not a major inconvenience for me on that one. Padres in Detroit again a little later on. Nick Pivetta, we'll see. You know, can Pivetta become as dominant away from Petco Park as he's been at Petco Park? I guess is the storyline tonight. So we'll spend a little bit.
It's a big field in Detroit.
Yeah, that win though was
I was whipping.
That was whipping last night. You could see like the jerseys were all whipping around.
Yeah,
pants and all sorts of stuff happening there. So, yeah, sloppy, just kind of nap time game yesterday. Probably a little more juice to this one a little later on. Oh, Tigers are good. Tigers are a postseason team. They're well managed.
First place Tigers.
Yep. All right. That's a wrap. I got to make my way out to Singing Hills. So, Tomas Angel will be our guest on the midweek show and the pregame show. So, my first time sitting down with the Colombian. Looking forward to that. Got a bunch of questions about Medellin that I'm gonna ask him.
Fun. And I imagine questions about LAFC and the difference between, since he was kind of there towards the beginning and now he's here towards the beginning.
Yeah. Yep. And his dad is a legend, Juan Pablo. So we got a lot to talk about. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for subscribing, section1904.com, and we'll do it again tomorrow.